बॉटल अगर घसर गई ना इधर से.
You know you are on the road to success if you would do your job and not be paid for it.
Good evening, one and all. Welcome to this momentous occasion of learning. I, Kumari Sakshi, Student Manager at Balaji Institute of Technology and Management.
And I, Rohit Kotiada, Student Manager at Balaji Institute of Technology and Management, will be your Masters of Ceremony for today.
We will ensure that every aspect of this event unfolds seamlessly and with utmost enthusiasm. We would like to welcome you all to our 30th corporate session of learning from corporate leaders. Our guest for today is a remarkable individual who made an impact through her journey. It is indeed an honor to have Ms. Priyanka Palshetkar ma'am, who is Data Engineering Lead at Accolite Digital. We would also like to extend our greetings to our Chancellor, Shri Balaji University Pune, Professor Parmanandan Balasubramanian Sir, Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. G.K. Shirude Sir, and all the senior directors, directors and deputy directors, faculty members, and all our student managers.
We are blessed to have ma'am's mother.
Our university, Sri Balaji University Pune, has also a vibrant ecosystem that nurtures entrepreneurship. And through our interactive sessions with corporate stalwarts, we groom ourselves for challenges in the outer world.
Discipline, dedication, determination are the three values on which Sri Balaji University Pune provides career-specific contemporary education with a strong emphasis on practical training and overall development of the students.
We are very proud of our constituent institutes, namely Balaji Institute of Modern Management (BIMM), Balaji Institute of Technology and Management (BITM), Balaji Institute of International Business (BIIB), Balaji Institute of Management and Human Resource Development (BIMHRD), Balaji School of Arts and Sciences, Balaji School of Law, which produced exceptional student managers.
The prestigious Times of India B School Survey has ranked Sri Balaji University Pune as top 12 B schools in India and ranked top 4 among private universities. Sri Balaji University is known for its 100% placement record, as more than 300 companies visit our campus for internships and placements. The intense grooming and the maximum learning our record have enabled our student manager to emerge as a leader in the corporate world.
Our university makes sure that we can interact with at least 200 corporate leaders. On this gracious occasion, we fondly remember to our founder, late Professor Dr. Colonel A. Balasubramanian Sir, for his vision to impart quality education to the youths of our country.
But before we welcome our esteemed guest, let us promise ourselves to keep our body, soul, and mind open for learning. As Bala Sir used to say, learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Before welcoming our guest, I would like to welcome ma'am's mother as well for gracing this event. May I now request our student managers, Ms. Khushi Chauhan and Mr. Rohan Nagam, to felicitate our guest of honor.
Thank you, Khushi and Rohan. May I now request our student manager, Ms. Anushka Kulshrestha, to introduce our guest.
Thank you, Sakshi. Good evening, everyone. I, Anushka Kulshresht, student manager at Balaji Institute of Technology and Management, Sri Balaji University, Pune. I am honored and privileged to introduce our esteemed guest today, Ms. Priyanka Palshetkar ma'am, who currently serves as a data engineering lead at Accolite Digital, where she spearheads innovative data solutions and engineering practices. With a strong background in data analytics and engineering, ma'am plays a crucial role in transforming data into actionable insights, driving business intelligence and enhancing data management capabilities. Her expertise and leadership have been instrumental in delivering high quality, scalable data solution that meets the dynamic needs of Digital's client. Ma'am's commitment to excellence and innovation marks her as a key contributor to the company's success in digital nation. A proponent of continuous learning, she actively participates in industry conferences and knowledge sharing forum, positioning herself as a thought leader in the data engineering landscape. Her dedication to excellence and innovation has earned her a reputation as a dynamic and influential leader in a tech community. She has completed an MBA from One League and hold a MicroMasters in Statistics and Data Science from MIT IDSS, demonstrating her strong academic background and commitment to the continuous learning. We are indeed fortunate to have such an accomplished and inspiring individual with us today. Let us warmly welcome our guest with a huge round of applause. Ma'am, the stage is all yours. Thank you. No, that's fine. Can you just... Can I disconnect it for a minute? I want to... Hello, everyone. Uh, Good evening. Thank you so much for giving your time to me. Uh, as the team has already welcomed me, I would also like to make my own introduction. So, I am Priyanka Palshetkar. I have done my electronics engineering from VIT Pune back in 2017, and I started my career as a technology analyst at Credit Suisse, where I worked for a year, and then I quit my job to do my own startup, where I worked as a CTO for a year and a half.
But COVID happened, and also you need a lot of money to do startups. So I had to quit that, rejoin my company back. So I rejoined as a full stack developer, did that for a year and a half, then switched, became a data analyst within Credit Suisse, did that for 2 years. Then I switched to Accolite as a data engineer. The point of telling you all this is I do have some experience in this field. Because I've worn all these hats, and I'm here to share that experience with you today, hoping that you will learn something from what I've learned and take away a thing or two today. So I hope, while I was at Accolite, I also got the opportunity to do an MBA, and I realized that I love data after wearing all these hats. So I did my MicroMasters in Statistics and Data Science, which you've already heard about. So let's begin with our agenda for today. So I'll talk about my company a little bit. Then we'll talk about the importance of data and AI today, and why we are here, why you're listening to me on a nice evening. Then we'll talk about how you will build your portfolio if you were to do a career in data and AI, which requires an educational foundation, some essential skills and technologies, gaining some practical experience and project showcase, and I'll tell you exactly how I did it so you know what to do rather than just some general knowledge. Then one of the things I find really important and is different from what we do in college versus what we do in corporate, there are a lot of things that are different, and we'll talk about the gap between corporate and academic projects. So we'll talk about the difference between the two, and what are the key challenges in transitioning when you go to a company and do a project versus when you do project for your own personal gain. Then we'll talk about navigating the job market, which even I do today, given how so many years working in the industry. So how do you stand out when you are navigating the job market? How to prepare for interviews? What is the role of networking? And all this is my personal experience, so you won't really hear about some general knowledge that I'm speaking about. And I'll also talk about what I would have done differently. Looking back 7 years, if I were to give myself some advice, what would that be? So let me tell you about my company. Bounteous X Accolite. So in February, my company Accolite Digital, which is a leading digital engineering, cloud data and AI services provider, we merged with Bounteous, who's a digital innovation partner of the world's most ambitious brands, and they announced their merger, which created a new end-to-end digital transformation services consultancy, which partners with the leading brands and top companies around the globe to co-innovate and drive exceptional client outcomes. And what our services are in strategy, in analytics, digital engineering, cloud, data and AI, experience design and marketing. And we are guided by co-innovation and collaboration, and our proven methodology of partnership with Bounteous X Accolite being an example. We bring together around 5,000 employees, which span around North America, APAC, EMEA, and even partnerships with leading technology providers all over the globe. So Bounteous X Accolite, very cool company because I work there. So okay, so now let's start the session by talking about why we are here today. What is the importance of data and AI? And let's look at some statistics because numbers speak more. So let's talk about impact of AI today. So a survey was done in December 2021, which asked people how they thought AI would change their lives. This was the result. And as you can see, most of the areas of our lives are being impacted by the way we learn, the education we get, how we travel, to even how we get entertained, right? And please note, this survey is from December 2021, even before ChatGPTs were announced, right? So AI was impacting us even then. Let's look at how ChatGPT has impacted us. This is November 2023 traffic analytics stats for chat.openai.com. That website got 2.2 billion hits that month with 471 million unique visitors. Talk about big numbers. People really are using AI. It has impacted us. It's the big boom, if you will, ask me. But let me ask you this. Do you think all this innovation in AI has just happened in the last few years? Not, not really, right? So machine learning, deep learning, and all these buzzwords that you keep hearing, they have been here since 1986. And why 1986? Why I think that's primarily important? Because the first paper for the most popular ML algorithm, which is backpropagation, was published in 1986. But only in the past few years we see all this happening and AI and ML coming into play. And why is that? Because previously we did not have the infrastructure to run AI. We had all the ideas. We did not have the processing power to run. Now we not only have the sophisticated ways of gathering data, storing it, but also processing it at high speeds with all the GPUs you hear of. And that's why NVIDIA stocks have gone up since the last 2 years like crazy. Because we have the power and we have the data to drive AI and innovation. And hence you hear about it a lot now. And of course, if all these new possibilities have opened up in the field of AI, the job market has to change, right? So if you look at the AI global market size right now, it is predicted to shoot 10x in this decade itself, from $250 million to almost $2 billion. I dare you to count the zeros, okay? But where is, like, when there is so much scope and money involved, definitely there are going to be jobs. So this survey by McKinsey will tell you what are companies hiring for these days then. And you see most of the jobs there are data engineers, AI data scientists, machine learning engineers, and whatnot, right? So today is the day. Like, it asserts that if we are looking to stay relevant in the future, most of us would have to pick one of these roles in the future. And I personally think everyone at this point has to learn one or the other thing which is data related, because it's the thing of the future. So then, the topic of today, how would I build a career in data and AI? But before I get there, I want to take 2 minutes to clarify some things. Like, we hear all these buzzwords, which is AI, machine learning, deep learning, data science. Is everything the same? Not really, because you see different roles assigned for these, right? So what is the difference between the two? Some of you might already know it, which is great, but I think it's important to understand that. This visual clearly explains the difference as well as the intersection and the overlap between these fields. So we see AI and data science is essentially not the same. They do overlap, but data science is basically the study of data to extract meaningful insights. Now this is the biggest bracket of everything. Data science is where everything is comprised of. Then what is AI? AI is the study of developing machines that can simulate human thinking, reasoning, and behavior. So we are trying to create machines and algorithms which will behave like humans. That's AI. And machine learning is a subset of AI, as you can see. It's inside the AI bracket, wherein we are training algorithms by giving it large amounts of data and without explicitly programming it. So the program is not learning from the rules that we code, but rather from the data that we input. So that is machine learning. And deep learning is the subset of that, which is related to neural networks. And the new child in town, which is Gen AI, is even deeper into that, where we talk about getting data, studying it, and creating new data from it. That is generating data. So that is Gen AI. And all this is different. And that's why the skills needed for each of these is different, which is why we talk about it today, right? So you see, data science is in its own distinct discipline with some overlap and application in the fields of AI and ML, but it is not a subset of either. And it is important for you to know this, because the choice you make here is what will define your path when you are building your career in data and AI, because you will need completely different skill sets, which is why I had to touch on this before going forward. Okay. Now that we have this, let's go and talk about building your portfolio. And what is a portfolio, right? A portfolio is essentially digital footprint of your work. So if somebody looks at this page or this profile, it's like your resume, but not really. It describes your projects in detail and provides more insights into what impact you have driven. It's more about the how and the impact rather than just the what. So a digital footprint of your work, if you'll say. It is a showcase of your projects and it highlights your skills and educational backgrounds. So your portfolio is what will talk about you when you are not present there in front of recruiters. And we'll talk about how you will build this portfolio which will make you build a career in data and AI. Okay, so first of all, I talked to you about the choice, right? We have to make a choice before we build our careers in data and AI. So let's start by choosing our superpower. So I spoke about the various disciplines, AI, ML and all that. But how does it all sit? If you look, there are three parts, three circles. The leftmost circle, computer science, is essentially programming. The rightmost circle is math and statistics, which is your statistics, probability, calculus, the educational and research part of it. And the downmost circle is business domain expertise, which is related to the field you will be working in. And at the intersection of this sits everything, but we'll talk about it in terms of functions or job roles, right? So at the intersection of programming and business domain expertise sits a data engineer. A data engineer. We'll talk about it in detail what a data engineer does, but a data engineer sits there. Then there's a data analyst who sits between maths and statistics and business domain expertise. He doesn't really need to know programming, but he needs to understand how data is, need to present it, need to bring out insights from it, need to be able to study it. And for that, they need some math and statistics. And of course, domain expertise is needed because if you are building a report on something related to sports, you need to understand sports, right? So that's a data analyst. Then that is where an ML, DL or Gen AI engineer sits, which is at the intersection of programming and maths, AI and statistics. So you need research and programming capabilities to become a machine learning engineer, a deep learning engineer and so on. And at the intersection of it all is the data scientist who has to have every possible skill, which is programming, which is maths and statistics, which is business domain expertise. So essentially these are the four brackets within which you will be building a career if you were to, and these are the essential job functions that you will need when you will be building, and you will be choosing what you will want to build because nobody can do all of this, at least not in this lifetime. So you'll need a lot of time to get there. But you can start with one, choose one, experiment and go ahead. But making a choice in the beginning is very important because that defines your path. So then, what are the skills and technologies that I would need if I were to say choose to become a data engineer or data analyst or data scientist? So I like to divide it in a table. This is the table. I use this table myself also when I'm applying for new roles. So data essentially has some functions. You collect data, you analyze data, there is handling a lot of data, which is big data. Then there is transforming the data to make sense out of it. Then there is visualizing or presenting it in AI, in charts, in reports. Then there is hosting data, creating production pipelines, which is cloud and DevOps. And then there is machine learning and deep learning, which is kind of doing magic with data. So all these are the functions of data. These are the things that you can do with it. And based on the role, your skills will be picked. So, but most of it is these 7 functions. And the form part of it is the tools. To be really honest, I'm not here to talk about tools, but these are the tools that I have used when I am doing all these functions. You can find an exhaustive list on the internet. This is non-exhaustive. This is everything that I have used so far. But depending on your role will describe what functions you will perform and what things you will have to learn. And we'll talk about that. So let's talk about that right now. So we talked about 4 roles, right? Data engineer, data analyst, ML engineer, and data scientist. So who is a data engineer? A data engineer is someone who makes the life of data analyst, ML engineer, and data scientist easier. So what he does is brings data in a productionized pipeline to a database. So what he does is essentially gathers all the data, cleans it. On an everyday basis, his job is to drop the data where the analyst and scientist and ML engineer will access it. So essentially that is the role of the data engineer. And as we talked about the functions that he needs to know programming, he needs to have some domain expertise as well. And the skills required as per the forms and functions table is data collection, big data, cloud, and DevOps. So out of the 7 things I talked about, these are the primary skills required for this role. And based on that, then you can find equivalent tools to learn and define your path. But this is what you need structure-wise. If you talk about an analyst, what an analyst does is when they get the data, they try to make sense out of it to communicate results. So they have a problem statement that is given to them, and they have to give an answer to that problem statement based on the data that they have. So they dig in the data, they create charts, and they try to find the answer and present to it to make better business decisions. That's what an analyst does. And that's why they need the skills for maths and stats and domain expertise, because they're trying to answer questions through data. And the skills required there is data analysis, transformation of data to some extent, and visualization, because they need to know how to present the data to the management, because not everyone wants to go and look at databases. Everyone wants to see a chart which answers their question, right? So that's what a data analyst does and the skills they require. Now, an ML engineer, what he does is he builds and automates the ML process. So we have machine learning algorithms running, your data scientist has approved it, it's built, but it has to run every day. And the key about machine learning models is they learn every day with new data, with already made mistakes. So there's a lot of feeding back into the system that happens. And that feeding back processes and automating is done by an ML engineer. So they do need to know how to build models to some extent, but their primary role is more on productionizing machine learning models and making the whole process of feedback loop easier. So the functions obviously for them as well, similar to data engineer, but they need to know some maths and stats and programming. And the skills that they require is machine learning, deep learning, big data, cloud, and ML DevOps, because they're building pipelines. And then comes the all-encompassing role of a data scientist who does everything, whatever is asked of him. They build ML models, they build predictive analytics, they gather insights. They not necessarily productionize it like a data engineer or an ML engineer, but they are more strategic and architecturally sound to help and lead all these other 3 roles. So data scientist is a more encompassing strategic kind of a role, and that's why they require all the skills. And so the programming is also required to some extent, maths and statistics. Somebody who is a data scientist has been a data engineer and an analyst at one point. You can't really be data scientist on day one. So you get there slowly, because that's someone who requires all functions. So that's the skills. Those are the 4 times. But you might think I might need some educational foundation. Do I need to study statistics? Do I need to study linear algebra and calculus at this point? I like to divide this into 2 questions. Are you interested in research, or are you interested in applying data and trying to find insights out of it? Because if you're interested in research, then you would have to go and learn statistics, probability, linear algebra, calculus based on whatever research you're doing, because then you are really into the depths of building the models, not using them. But if you're only interested in using the models, then you don't really have to get the deep or like a master's or anything like that. There are certification programs by companies like IBM, Google, who build like specific paths for a particular role which you can take, and that should be enough for you. So that's my take on getting, do I need to study before I apply for this role? So that breaks into research. Are you interested in research, or are you interested in applying what you're learning? Okay. Now, gaining practical experience, of course. Everything is not about theory. What is going to set you apart, right? So, gaining practical experience and implementing what you're learning is very important. And I personally find 4 ways of doing it really interesting, which is I participate in Kaggle competitions. Kaggle is the world's largest data science community. A lot of powerful tools, data is there, people are putting their work. It's a nice platform to go and learn anything, if you will. All the skills you'll find, people have done some work or the other which you can observe and learn. So I believe in learning from projects that are already built, because those give a lot of insights into what the final product is and what must have gone into building that. So this is one of the platforms, one of the ways in which you can gain experience, and it adds a lot of value. There is a lot of money there for these competitions, because companies like Google and IBM and all post their challenges there so that people can solve that for them. Then also we are contributing to open source projects, which you can find. Open source projects are essentially where anybody can come and contribute and solve problems, like a community. And I think collaborating at some level will give you not only the badge on GitHub, but also an experience in working with the team early on. So I think that's a nice place to do it as well. Hackathons, yes, always open to do hackathons. Not only exposure, but really like targeted problem solving in strict deadlines is what corporate is all about. Hackathons is a nice virtual simulation for it, so great place to gain some practical experience. And internships, of course, that's like a given, right? Like you go and get internships specific to it and gain experience. Now you know what skills you want, you know where you want to go, you know whether you need an education or not, you know you have applied practical experience. So now it's time to showcase what you have done. So this is my GitHub profile. I like to put all my projects out there. It's a really nice platform to get feedback and also to see if people are really interested in what you're doing or not. And it's a good place to put up and interact with community and do a lot of things, not necessarily coding also. I've put some hackathons where we just published papers, so the papers are also there. I just use it as a repository. You can also create your own website and put all the things that you've worked on there. It's like I said, right, like it's a digital footprint of your work when you're not there to explain what you have done. So it's like if somebody looks at this website, they should know like what Priyanka has done so far in 7 years of her life, right? So I know her from this. So showcasing and building your portfolio is all about that. It should speak for you when you're not present there. And it should highlight the most important aspects of it. So I totally encourage you to do that. Okay, so that was about building your portfolio. But like I said, I want to touch upon this topic because it's really important to understand how the projects that we do today versus how it will be in a corporate setup. And there is a difference, one major difference. So let's talk about the difference. So academic projects, the what? It could be anything under the sun. You can explore any topic to your heart's content. The focus is more on theory and experimentation, and you just keep on doing the project for maybe say 2 years of your MBA life or however, right? The how of it is you have indefinite scope and resources, you have as much time you want, you have flexible deadlines, nobody's really behind you to do it on time unless it's like a major project or something, but still flexible, and you have a lot of help, right? And why do we do academic projects? Because we want to learn, we want to grow personally, and we want to build our portfolio, right? So these are essentially the goals which you're already aware of by this point. But corporate, it's different. The what of corporate, you have to do projects which add business value. So your idea might be the greatest in the world at this point, but if it's not adding value to your to your corporate, your company or your team, at this point it's of no use. So it should add business value, and the focus is on practical applications, right? Not just on experimentation, because there's a balance always with corporate, right? Do we want to have present day value, or do we want to innovate for the future? So you always have to think about what you are investing your time on. So it should add business value. And the most different, or the most glaring difference is, you don't have infinite time. There are strict deadlines. Everybody wants the thing that is supposed to be done in 2 years, done in 3 months. And you have to do it. That's how it is. The scope is defined, limited resources, strict deadlines. But you have to do it, right? That's how it is. And people will expect you to do it. That's the biggest and the major difference between corporate and how the academic projects that we do. And why do we do corporate projects? Is because we have to create impact. We have to add business value to our company. And we have to have an emphasis on results. I can't just build a music recommender because I'm interested in classical Carnatic music for 2 years as a part of Accolite Digital. I can't, because they don't really deal with music. So I have to build something, or I have to work on something which adds impact, or which creates impact for the future or today, right? So emphasis is on results on corporate, and there are strict deadlines. That's the biggest. Time is not a luxury when you work in corporate projects. So what are the key challenges then in transitioning? Balancing your priorities, right? When you have limited time, you need to be able to balance your priorities. And how I like to do it is, I like to use something called as the impact effort matrix. It looks really technical, but it's not really not. So whatever your project is, you put it on one of the quadrants. So the x-axis is the effort quadrant, and the y-axis is the impact quadrant. So you want to give low effort and get high impact, because that's how you're going to shine, right? Which is the low hanging fruit, which is our sweet spot. Obviously there are high effort, high impact projects which are a bet. They might work, they might not. But the other two, not so much. We don't really want to have low impact and very much effort, because it's wasting our times, or everything low. Even effort is low and impact is low, it's waste, distraction. So we want to be on above the x-axis essentially. So what I do is, whatever ideas that I have within my team, I would like to put it on this matrix. And I would obviously like to target the low hanging fruits first, because that will create more impact and gain interest from the senior management, from my team, because that's going to help me drive the next steps. If I gain and gauge their interest by creating high impact with low effort, then it's definitely worth doing. So balancing your priorities is really important when you're in a corporate setup. And you have to learn to pick your battles to win the war, essentially. That's what I call it. Second thing is handling project management and deadlines. What, like I said, time is not luxury when you're working. So then the whole Pareto principle helps. These are all keywords. They have really given the nice concepts, but the funda is do 20% of the work to get 80% of the results. And you have to really think about your project in that aspect, because if you give 20% and get 80%, you show the 80% to your team, to your senior management, and then gain interest for the remaining 20%, right? So you need to understand, because you don't have a lot of time. Like I said, 2 years projects in maybe sometimes 6 months. So you need to really have less effort and more impact to handle project management and deadlines. And I like to call it less is more when the clock ticks. So less effort, more impact when the clock ticks, and this is the thing that you have to keep in mind. Of course, understanding the needs of multiple stakeholders. So when you're doing an academic project, it's just you or maybe a project guide, 2 or 3 people involved. But when you're in a company, there are a lot of people involved. And the key principle to keep in mind is that every stakeholder, and by stakeholder I mean it could be your team members, it could be your client, it could be anyone. they hold a unique role. They have their own path to play. So to understand the role that each stakeholder has and what their expectations are from you, and to manage that and to empower them is really key. So it's and I call it little empathy goes a long way. Ma'am told me that you are doing design thinking courses here, and this is what I think is the most important takeaway for me from design thinking is you really need to understand what people want before you give them start solutionizing their problems, because you might be solving for A but they want B. So to really understand what your stakeholders want is something that you definitely need and is different from what academic versus corporate is. Okay, most important part, probably the part you would be most interested in right now, just navigating the job market. All these are how I navigate the job market even today. Like if I were to go and switch my job right now, this is exactly what I'll do. So with a pool of capable candidates, everyone here is capable, so you have competition here itself. How will you stand out for that job, and how can you market yourself? So I like to again divide it into the what, how, and why. And the what is to identify exactly. This is probably the fourth or fifth time I'm telling you. But in data and AI, you really need to exactly know what you want to do. At least, like, I want to be a data engineer, I want to be an ML engineer, I want to be an analyst, because everything is different. You need different skills for it. So when there are thousands of candidates who are applying for a role, I say it's never too early to prepare for a dream role. So how do I find, how would I stand out, and what skills are needed, and how would I be different from people who everyone knows how to write SQL queries? So then how would I stand differently? I go and check latest job openings for the thing that I want to do or my dream role, and I try to gauge what exactly is that the market wants right now. And why I say that this is important, because until ChatGPT's happened, prompt engineering was not even a thing, but it's now a role, right? So in data and AI, everything is changing so fast that you need to be really up to speed with what exactly it is that companies need these days. And latest job openings is the place where you will exactly find what you will have to do. And other thing that I do is I talk to people who are already doing what I want to do, because they really paint a clear picture. Sometimes you might think that this is the best role for you. Not really. Like at one point I wanted to be a automation I want to build cars basically. Not for me. Realized it later because I spoke to someone who was into mechanical engineering. They told me what was needed, and I was like, no, that's not really good. So speak with them. And where will you find them? You can connect with them on LinkedIn. Easiest way. Talk to them on email. How I do is I attend the events that they are conducting and speak with them. And other cool thing that I've really found right now is platforms like TopMate, where you can really, these people volunteer there. You can go and really speak with them, book an hour with them, and ask whatever you want to ask. Like, what do they do on a day-to-day basis? What are the skills needed? So this is what I do even now. And in terms of what if I have to summarize is, you don't really need everything on day one. You cannot know everything on day one. We have to be smart. We need to understand what we are trying to achieve to get there, because there are a lot of things that you will have to do if you want to stand out. Talk about the how of the navigating the job market. So now you know what you want to do. So then you have to go and do that, right? So you have to master the skills. So what I do is obviously follow the function to form table. If I am choosing to be a data engineer, then I go and get the skills for being a data engineer. And I don't have to tell you where to find resources. There are so many resources out there. You can choose your way of learning, which could be books, articles, videos, podcasts, could be anything. For me, it is already existing projects. I go to GitHub, I look at what projects people have done. I go to other people in my company, see what projects they have done in that field. And that really helps me learn, because I get to see the end form of the project. I know in my head how it is going to look at the end, and then I break it down reverse engineering wise. Then that helps me to be, oh, this is how it is. One step back, this is how it will be. One step back, this is how it will be. So that's how I learn. Talk to experts. We don't really feel comfortable networking and asking people, but talking to people who already do it helps. And you have to identify and how to showcase it through your projects. Definitely add those to your portfolio, because that is how you will stand out. And if needed, build the education background, which I have already spoken about, which can be done from e-learning platforms, learning paths by industry leaders. So this is how you acquire the skills to stand out when navigating the job market. And for the how, I say it's okay to be jack of some trades, but you have to be a master of one, because what you're selling is an end-to-end value, right? You can't really just be someone who builds Power BI reports. If you say, but I also know how to extract insights or do some part of pipelining before this, that makes you different, because then you're adding another person's job to your own job. You're one person in two. And it doesn't really take much to figure out 2 or 3 sets of things you can. So you can be a great Power BI developer, but you can also be a pipeline developer, or who knows how to, and then combine that together, right? So that's a package that you can market yourself as. And the why do you have to stand out, and how will you, like, what is your why? What I think personally, like when I am doing interviews, is I want to understand why is the person doing what they're doing. Like, what is the story of who you are? And let me give you an example of my friend. My friend was studying for UPSC up until 2 years, 2019. He passed out with me only. And then he wanted to switch his career to becoming a data analyst, because he thought that he liked digging into that. So then he asked me, I told him all this, which I'm telling you today. But then I also told him that how will you add who you are? Because I'm telling this to like 100 people here. They'll all go and do this. So then how will you stand out now? So and this is where, so what is your interest? So what did my friend do? He was interested in sports. So what he did was he went and dug out data on some bowling speeds and I don't know what what is about, not really depths of cricket. But I remember the title of his talk was how are bowlers doing better in Kohli era versus Dhoni era. And he had the whole topic planned, and he used bowling averages and all that to explain why bowlers were doing better in Kohli era. Maybe that might be wrong, but he had data to support that. So that's his interest being shown in what he does, and a clear story of why he is doing what he is doing. And he did land a really good job, because when he spoke about what he did, he had a big why for it, and there was interest being shown, and that's what made him different from the other 10 people who also had the skills to build charts and all, right? So find out what works for you, add that to your body of work, because that will make you stand out, that will make you what is unique. Keep it simple and bite-sized. Like he made an article which is simple things, but package it as something that adds value. So you have to, if somebody is looking at your work, they should look at it as something like they can market right now. Maybe he can sell that article to some newspaper at this point, you know. So it's a product, right? It's an article. So you have to package that as a product that adds value, but it could be really simple. Another pro tip. So this is the quality of what will make you stand out, right? Doing what you like and applying that into what you do. And how would you add the quantity? So do one thing, showcase it in 10 different ways. And by that I mean is, I built a comment summarizer in October 2023 using OpenAI APIs only, but for an OpenAI hackathon. But ChatGPT was not announced at that point. So I made that at that point. Then I wrote an article about it. I posted a GitHub project about it. Then I gave talk on it in my company, same project, gave a talk on it. I switched it to use Gemini APIs instead of OpenAI APIs. I entered that as an entry into the Gemini API developer contest. I wrote an article for it. You can do 100 things. You do one thing, you show it in different ways. Post a blog about it, talk about it. You have such a huge auditorium, bring 10 people, make them sit through it and make them listen to what you have done. Create a chart, tweet it. So you don't really have to do a lot, but you really need to know and showcase the value it adds and the impact it creates, and you can do it in many, many ways. So the why is, if you can tell your story, you already stand out, because then that's what makes you different, and that's what speaks about what drives you and motivates you, which I think is really important. Talking about interview preparation, only one golden rule: do interviews. There is no other tip I can give you for interview preparations, because the more interviews you give, the more you will learn. And it could be mock interviews, it could be platforms like TopMate where they do interviews for you. You can do interviews amongst your friends. So it's more about doing the interviews, and that's how you will learn. There is no other way to prepare for interviews. There is no one fine day where I just get randomly magically good at it and I will go and my day will go nice and I'll get selected. No, go do interviews. It's fine. You have to learn. You have to fall 10 times, then you will do great one time. And last but not least, so I think the role of networking is really, really important in this day and age, because even though we have AI interviewers, I think people still value people's opinions. So role of networking, and by that I mean why you have to network, is because there has to be an army of ambassadors who are speaking about your work. So I got the opportunity to be here because my manager spoke to Rachna and Rachna spoke to Gitu ma'am about me. So there are army of ambassadors who are speaking about how you do, what you do, how your work is, and how will you build this army of people. How will they know about your work? When you collaborate with them, when you collaborate with these people. And this could be anyone, could be your classmates, who could be your future co-workers. Hell, they could be your future bosses. So collaborate with them. They will know, I had done this project with so and so and he was really good at what he was doing. Let's bring him in, right? So find people who are doing cool work. Collaborate with them. They will speak about it. Hackathons, like I said, really good place to find people and show work and network. Attend conferences, events, which you're already doing here, but attend more as well. And I say one conference, one question, just to break the ice and network. And what I think is a golden rule of connecting with people on LinkedIn is ask people for feedback on your work. Everybody likes to give advice. And if you tell them that, sir, you are really great at what you do, can you please, and always have some agenda to when you're connecting with people. This is my body of work. I would like your feedback. I would also like to help you in what you are doing. I saw what you're doing is really cool. So that way it's not just about you asking something from them, but you also giving them an option to involve you in their work and give your help and do your part. Okay? And be poignant. Talk about what you want, talk about what you have to offer, talk about what you need from them. Nobody has a lot of time, so you have to build these army of ambassadors who speak for your work. This is how you can do it. Okay, now I'll talk about what I would have done differently. So if I were, and you know how much I like the what, the why, and the how. So that's how I break all my projects, everything actually. So what I would have done differently, I think time is a luxury in college. So I would have experimented a lot. As you can see, my career journey has been really about experimentation. I've done a lot of things before I landed on doing what I want to do, but I did not really do that in college. And you do have a lot of time to go out and do small things. You don't really have to do like really good big things or anything like that. And if I were in your shoes, I was thinking if I were in the shoes of someone who was in an MBA college right now, what would I have done? maybe I talk to the faculty. I find out job. I go and find out data on jobs, and I create this nice, awesome Tableau report for the placement team to understand what is the job market. Right. This is an application of where you want to be right now, and this is the body of work that you will build and what I'm talking about, right? So maybe build a report for your placement team which helps them, or maybe create a word cloud for your college's marketing team which talks about how people are speaking about BITM in general. Go maybe query Twitter API, bring about what people are tweeting about BIMM, BITM. What are they saying? Present that in the word cloud. It's not really hard to do. Just pick other people's projects and tweak it. It's fine to learn that way also. Maybe create a resume match scorer. You help the placement team get this. You create it for yourself and your friends to help them understand how much their resume is scoring as compared to other people on the internet. So these are good ways of experimenting right now when you have time as a luxury. So which is what I would have done. And how I would have done, what differently I would have done. I think I would have done everything with a lot of consistency. I personally don't read any self-help productivity books because I believe everyone has their own journey and their own way of doing things. But this is a golden rule. We don't really realize the value of that 1% we put in unless it becomes, say, 38% is what Power of Gains says. But today, if I put literally half an hour into doing something and consistently do it, it really works. This might sound like a funda, you will come to know about it later, that, oh, I wish 7 years earlier I would have spent some time learning some SQL maybe, or something as simple as maybe learning to write 5 words. It's so hard to sit and write these days. I had so much difficulty penning all this down. What I'll be speaking here, but consistently building the skills that you need, and it is about everything. So I hope I would have consistently learned how to, maybe giving examples, how to maybe one day build SQL queries, to the other day maybe learn how to use Excel formula, simple, maybe as complex as building a comment summarizer someday, or participating in a Kaggle competition, but doing it consistently. And the beauty of the thing is, see, there's a con. You won't really know the difference until the big thing happens after some time. But the pro is, today you don't really have to put a lot. It's just half an hour of work. So why not? Just do it, right? So that's what I think. And the why. This is important. Because I'm awesome. And no, I say this because a lot of us undermine our own abilities a lot. We always think that I am not good for this job because I don't have skills. I am not okay to participate, or not okay to speak because what will I speak about? Will people come to hear me? We always find reasons of not doing things. Say you're awesome because you'll figure it out. Don't make excuses. So say you're awesome already because you will eventually figure it out. And I wish I could have gone there to myself and said, you're awesome, don't make excuses. You're gonna figure it out. So do it from right now, right? So keep that imposter syndrome aside. Be your own motivator. Say you're awesome and go do all the things that you would want to do, is a takeaway that I would want to give for today. And yes, that's it. Thank you so much. That's all I wanted to speak. I hope it was worth your time.
Now, the house is open for questions.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Adarsh Joshi, student manager at BIMM. Ma'am, my question is as a data engineer, looking toward the cyber security part, how do you deal with that part? Because using AI sometimes make the system vulnerable to other attacks.
Yes, so again, that really depends on. I have personally not worked on the cybersecurity angle of it, but I think there are a lot of GDPR and laws being put into proper use of your data into AI, and I think a lot of it really depends on putting it on industry leaders like the OpenAIs of the world or the Googles of the world who will actually define this because they have the power to do it. If you ask like at a personal level, I've not really worked on the cybersecurity domain of it, but be careful about what you're doing with your AI and data. I would like to add about the ethics part of it because when you're giving a lot of this to the machine, it's really looking at it and it might bring out insights about something that you don't really intend to be, and it could be about like personal details as well, but about the other parts as well. And that's where building a framework and building rules about it has to come from, like I spoke about, right, these industry leaders of the world. So which is what I'm hoping. I don't think I have answered your question because I have not worked on it, but that's how I do.
No issues. Thank you for sharing your
Thank
opinions.
Very good evening, ma'am. Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tushar Gopal Krishnan, pursuing data science and business analytics at BITM. Ma'am, my question to you is, you said that you've co-founded multiple startups. One of them is Infinite Products and Alva Meal as well as. So what are certain data-related challenges that you faced from a startup's perspective?
Actually, my startups did not involve a lot of data. But one of the things that you will face when you are working as a startup is one, to find data, and second is proper use of it, because you might have a great idea where you would want to get people's medical data and build a model around it to give them suggestions on how they should eat. Maybe that's your idea, but people don't really want you to learn about their data and AI habits, right? So the whole part about the compliance around it is something that I feel is challenging for startups, and I think a lot of startups are going through it. Like you see Paytm being sacked for using people's data, or maybe at some point the financial startups will also do the same, but there are rules that are going to be built around it, right? So as long as the compliance around it is figured, I think everything else is more about how much you can innovate and how much money you have to put it in.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. Yeah.
Oh, hello.
Ma'am, can you suggest some ETL platform to learn? As a data scientist, ma'am, you are more reliable on which platform?
It actually depends on what your client uses, to be honest. You don't really have a say because they have their systems set up already, right? But what I have been using so far is a tool called Matillion, which my client uses. And we have also migrated to Databricks, and sky's the limit. But personally, it really depends on who you are solving for and what their systems have already been using, because then you will have to adapt your skills accordingly.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hello ma'am, good evening. I am Bhavna Mukesh Ramchandani, studying MBA in Operations and Supply Chain Management, and my question to you is, what do you look for in a candidate wanting to join your company?
Like I said, right, I want to see what you've done differently and why you're doing it, right? Like what makes you do what you do. Like if you come to me and you say that you know how to do SQL, fine, I said everyone does because you have come for a data role. But what did you do with it and how has it made a difference for you is something that I would look for. And also your drive for learning new things essentially is something I would look for.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hello.
I am Atharva from BIMM. You gave an example of your friend who made projects based on his interest like sports data and other. And you also recommend us to do that, sharing our own story. But what if those projects don't have business applications? Like business or other related area we build our projects on?
Yeah, so my advice to you was for building projects on right now which would help you stand out. Obviously, in a corporate setup, you don't have that tangibility or flexibility, but you can still innovate, is what I think. Because I'll give you my example. I was exploring Gen AI and machine learning and all that, right? And my client really did not have the budget or the time for that project, but their data had a lot of calls records and all that, so I took upon it to actually go and use that data and learn and present it to them, which kind of became a project later. So sometimes I think restriction also can help you bring innovation, because sometimes having your scope like as indefinite really confuses you. So you can innovate anywhere. Just find what you like to do, and it could be, like broken and like a Lego piece. You can make it into something nice.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hello.
My name is Suresh from Operations and Supply Chain Senior Batch. So, what are the preventive measures for any data breach, like in terms of personnel or for an organization?
So there are a lot of GDPR and compliance rules that come, and ours is a client-based organization, right? So it more or less is defined from what sort of rules the company follows or the area in which the company operates follows. So each area or region has their own GDPR rules based on which you can or cannot use data. Like something as simple as in India, you can send telemarketer messages to everyone, right? But US, it's not that easy because they have rules for it, right? So all that is really dependent and decided on the basis of where you're operating, what market this is, what rules they follow, and mostly it's compliance related work is probably won't come under your bridge. If you're a data engineer, it most likely fall under legal and all the project management kind of aspect, but this is what you will consider if you were to. Thank you. Thank you so much.
May I now invite our student manager, Ms. Srishti Chaudhary and Mr. Aditya Rathore to felicitate our guest of honor with the token of appreciation.
May I now call upon our student manager, Mr. Harshit Thakur, to put forward the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Rohit. Good evening, everyone. I, Harshit Thakur, a student manager at Balaji Institute of Technology and Management, Sri Balaji University, Pune. I'm truly honored to extend my heartfelt appreciation to our distinguished guest of honor, Ms. Priyanka Palshetkar ma'am, for gracing our university discussion, leveraging the depth of your profound expertise and extensive experience. Your insightful perspective had broadened our understanding and encouraged critical thinking. We express deepest gratitude for your invaluable contribution in shaping the mind of future leaders. Allow me to underscore the salient insights distilled from this enlightening session. AI, the present and the future. Rising influence of AI in our lives. Build portfolio, the digital footprint, encapsulating technologies, skill and education. In-depth discussion about how to be industry fit for being data analyst and data engineer. Navigating the what, how and why of the job market. Learn to pick the battle to win the war. At last, thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you and have a great evening.